Today, we're diving into a fascinating spiritual text that maps out the 8 core relationships connecting us to the entire universe. We're talking about everything from our deepest origin story to how we can have a direct line with the ultimate creator.
And really, it all boils down to this one huge question. The source material we're looking at is trying to give us a kind of blueprint, not just for who we are, but for how we actually fit into the grand scheme of things.
Now, what makes this text so unique is that it speaks with 2 different voices. On one hand, you get this incredibly detailed, specific story, almost like a cosmic drama. But on the other hand, it lays out these broad, universal spiritual principles. So as we go through this, we're going to see how these 2 very different approaches tackle the same big ideas. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. We're talking about the blueprint of creation itself, and the hierarchy that sort of defines our place in the cosmos. And right out of the gate, you can see those 2 voices in action. The narrative view on the left makes this really important distinction. It says humanity is made in the image of gods, plural, not the one ultimate creator who doesn't even have a single form. The universal view on the right agrees that the creator is beyond any form, but it adds this beautiful idea that every form, including us, is an expression of that very creator.
So this raises a pretty big question, right? If we aren't made in the single image of God, then what is our origin story, according to this text? Well, this is where the narrative version gets incredibly specific.
According to the story, humanity wasn't created all at once. It describes these very distinct origins for different groups of people. Some were created by gods, others are said to come from a totally different realm, and then you have Adam and Eve, who were created in Eden by yet another divine being. It's a really complex and layered history. And then, boom, the universal voice just cuts through all of that complexity with this single, powerful idea. It basically says, look, regardless of the specific story, the fundamental truth is the same. Everything and everyone comes from one single source, and we're all on a journey back to that source. Now, this brings us to a really crucial piece of the cosmic hierarchy. In this worldview, the ultimate creator doesn't directly manage human affairs. Instead, we're caught between these 2 opposing forces, a god of light and a god of darkness. And their constant struggle is basically presented as the reason our world is so imperfect. So if we're stuck in this cosmic tug of war, how is there any fairness? How is there any justice? Well, the text answers that with a single, unshakable law that governs everything. And this is it. It's described as the main way the creator interacts with us, through this totally impartial, automatic law of cause and effect. It's not about some being in the sky handing out rewards and punishments. It's more like the universe itself is hardwired so that our choices create their own direct, unavoidable consequences. And this little parable from the source just illustrates it perfectly. Imagine you come across an injured rabbit. Okay, choice number 1, you ignore it. The direct result? When you need help down the line, no one will be there for you. Choice 2, you help it. The result? Your own life is enriched and extended. But then there's choice 3, you harm it. The result is just as direct. You shorten and devalue your own existence. See? The outcome is a mirror image of the choice. This line from the text just sums it all up so perfectly. What we've done in the past creates the reality we live in now, and what we're doing right now is literally building the future we're going to experience. It's this unbreakable chain. So we've got this huge cosmic structure and this impartial law running the whole show. But what about the personal stuff? How do we actually feel connected to any of this? To make this all feel a bit more real and personal, the text gives us this cosmic family analogy. And it's so clever because it translates these huge abstract forces into relationships we can all understand. The ultimate creator is like a grandfather. The gods of light who guide us are like fathers. And the gods of darkness? Well, they're like uncles. Still part of the family, but they play a much more challenging and sometimes difficult role. So, how far away is this grandfather figure? The text makes this really cool distinction. In terms of physical space, yeah, the distance is immeasurable. But that's not the distance that actually matters. The real distance is spiritual. And you don't measure it in miles, you measure it in consciousness. The closer you are to truth and love, the closer you are to God. Simple as that. And how do you close that spiritual distance? The text uses this fantastic concept of resonance. Honestly, just think about tuning an old radio. To get the station, you have to find the right frequency. It's the same here. To connect with the divine, your consciousness has to start vibrating on that same frequency.
It's not magic, it's just a spiritual law.
So how do you tune your frequency? The source gives us a whole toolkit. You've got active practices like prayer and meditation, but also these essential states of being, like living with gratitude and sincerity and committing to doing the right thing. All of these work together to amplify that resonant connection. This brings us to our final section, which is all about the practical, step-by-step methods for actively making that connection happen. This is the how-to part.
The text really highlights two main paths. First, there's meditation, which it calls the most direct route. That's all about quieting the noise of the outside world so you can connect with those universal truths inside you. Then there's prayer, which is framed as a more personal, one-on-one conversation for aligning your will with the divine.
And the text gets super specific on how to pray effectively. It's not just about asking for things. There's an order to it. You start with gratitude and praise. Then you work on aligning your will with the bigger plan. After that comes genuine repentance for your mistakes. And only then, at the very end, do you ask for help to stay on the right path.
And this comes with a really crucial warning that ties right back to that idea of resonance. According to this source, if you pray with negative or selfish intentions, you're not tuning into the Creator's frequency. You're actually tuning into the frequency of those darker forces. And because of that law of cause and effect, any harm you wish on others will eventually find its way back to you.
So as we wrap this up, we've come full circle, right back to that central theme. This text doesn't give you just one way to understand your place in the universe. It offers two distinct paths, a rich, detailed story, and a clear, elegant set of universal laws. And that really leaves us with a final question to ponder. When it comes to making sense of your own place in the cosmos, which of these resonates more with you? Is it the power and detail of a specific story, or is it the clean, simple clarity of a universal principle? Something to think about.